Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Hybrid Friends. Today with our hybrid friend Jaromir. You may already know from previous videos with Bernhard. Today with me. So I have the honor to talk to Jaromir on screen. So we're talking a lot, but it's the first time we're capturing a video together. So I'm honored. And Jaromir, just tell maybe or remember the audience who you are and what we will talk about today. So I will be more like the silent guest and enjoy your glory.
Sorry. Okay, thank you for the introduction. Usually not that like enjoying my glory. Come on. Now a little bit right, I guess. So my name is Jaromir. I'm based in Czech Republic. I was working for some time with Microsoft for almost 10 years. Now I'm working with Dell, and I joined a global engineering outreach specialist team. It's me, Matt McSpirit, you maybe know him, and Kenny Lau, and my colleague Giant. So we cover the entire world, and we are kind of talking to the community, to the product managers inside and outside Dell about Azure Stack HCI. What I was doing back in Microsoft, I was a PFE, and I really wanted to play with the hardware. I really wanted to play with a service, and always we struggled with the service and hardware and everything. So we could have a pretty good laptop, and this is what I had, right? And when Windows Server 2016 was introduced, it introduced nested virtualization, and it was something that was like, finally. And I didn't know PowerShell back then. And what I found is that I found some script to create labs. I think it was basically just importing virtual machines. And I started to rewriting it. And I was like, okay, I need to have a lab that will simulate some really fancy setup, like to have a domain controller and everything. And this is what I did, right? Since 2016, I did a project called MSLab now. It used to be called WS 2016 Lab. Then I renamed it to WS Lab. Maybe it was WS 2019 Lab, I think, in meanwhile. Then it was WS Lab, like Windows Server Lab. And then after Azure Stack HCI introduction, we renamed it into the MS Lab. So now it's called MS Lab. You can find it on a GitHub. And when I joined Dell, what I did is I started to write new guides that are basically, step-by-step documents on how to work with MSLab, so you can spin your virtual environment, including domain controller, Azure Stack HCI nodes, and even more. And this is something that we will be talking about today.
Okay. Do you have something to share for us?
Yes, let's share my screen, and I'll walk through the Dell GEOS GitHub. So we do have a GitHub, global engineers, and one of the page in GitHub is this Azure Stack Hands-on Labs. And what I do here is that I introduced MSLab. As you can see, it's based on MSLab. It's still live and kicking project, and I still update MSLab. However, it's something too much for the new incomers. So if you open MSLab, it's like, it's a lot of stuff here. You do not know where to start. So what I did, I created this project, Azure Stack Hands-on Labs, because I think it's really important to explain step by step how to get into the virtual environment lab, right? So there is like an admin guide on how to set up the lab, and there is a lab guide on how to use the lab. Basically, guided scenario if you want to, for
You
example, deploy
basically
something.
learned from Microsoft how not to do and improve that. So everyone who worked with the HCI experience on our end is just, where to start. And you just took that experience from the past and build it
Yes, exactly.
some
So
nice guide around
I
how to
spent a
start.
lot of time with labs, right? So I've been teaching as a PFE, and to my students, if it was like a click next lab, it was usually 50% of the students finished the lab, right? If it was like click next, right? When I did a PowerShell, pure PowerShell, almost everyone was able to finish the lab, but after some, let's say, introduction. So you have to, show how to open the PowerShell, how to paste the code into PowerShell, how to do proper management. So you should have a management machine and do all of the management from the management machine. You should not jump from one box to another box using RDP because it's just too confusing, right? And it's insecure. So what I do now here is just introducing how you should work with MSLab, because this is the bunch of the scripts that you know download and then somehow run, right? If for the newcomer, someone will just open the PowerShell and try to run it with the PowerShell. Someone will just open the PowerShell IIC. Someone will, even run the Visual Studio Code to run the scripts. And I was like, no, the only thing you have to do is basically, right click on the script. So basically you download MSLab, still there's a WSLab, see, I think it's now fixed. But what you do have, you unzip your folder, you have these nice files, and the only thing you have to do is run with a PowerShell with a right click. So this is my guidance, like something that we already know because we are using it, but it's new for the people who are new to these tools. And as a result of this script, you have a bunch of files that will be used to deploy a lab. So you have this folder where you already have hydrated domain controller with parent disks for your VHDs with Windows Server 2022 or vNext, right? Because you can even run vNext versions of the Windows Server or 2019 or 2016 or whatever you want. And there's even a guide on how to create just a HCI parent disk, but you can deploy or create any parent disk you want. Windows Server 2012, 2008, I think, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows 11, whatever you want. Just again, right click on the script to create parent disk, run it through the PowerShell. And if you want to know more, then you can just open the script and then take a look what's going on inside. And it's completely transparent. There is no black box. You can always open any script and learn. So, and this is the idea of the lab itself. Many people think this is about automation. This is not about automation. This is about consistent documentation. So you have the documentation that will work after years. And I'm still, when I was creating the lab that we will be talking about today, I basically went into the 4 years old scenario, and everything except download links worked. So I just updated download links, then I updated a few things that I didn't update over the time, and no one reported it's faulty. So it's working again, right? So the consistent documentation, not automation.
It's like
What
Bernhard is doing. That's also one reason why Bernhard is doing this installation series. Is if he's not able to remember certain steps he did, he just rewatches his videos.
Or it's even easier if you have a PowerShell script, because what I do is I just Control F of the script, because this is what I do have, right? I do have a Visual Studio Code. And if I need to search for something like, how do I domain join virtual machine, right? How do I create virtual machine? I know I was doing it in multiple scenarios, so the only thing I have to do is just search it. And this is the best thing you can do. So if I don't know, want to see how to update, let me just close all of these windows or whatever. If I need to update Dell servers, I just can go into the scenario, copy something, and reuse it right immediately. So that's how I keep my knowledge, because I can Control F it. If you have a video and record it, you cannot Control F it, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the Azure Stack HCI and the lab that I will be showing today. I'll be showing first my physical lab, and I described how to deploy physical lab with this admin guide. And this is basically a description of my physical lab that I'm located now at. So you are looking at my physical machine. That is actually this one, Windows Server 2022 with Hyper-V role enabled, with a lot of virtual machines running MSLab. And from these virtual machines, I connect with dedicated ports into my top-of-the-rack switches, and I do have physical AX6515's node. I have 4 of them. I have 2 clusters, two nodes and 2 nodes clusters. I will be showing you soon. However, this is my physical lab, how it's described, and there's end-to-end scenario how I deployed it. So you can reproduce the same thing in your own lab. So what I did,
so
yes.
I don't require 4 physical Dell servers or 5 physical Dell servers. I can use my, as you know, my Intel NUCs or any virtual machine for it.
This is for the physical lab, but you can use also virtual lab. So what I do have is I do have virtual machines running within this server, and I do have here a lot of labs here. See, so I do have this prefix that identifies a lab, and I do have one dedicated for the Grafana that is empty. There's no Grafana yet running. There's just Azure Stack HCI cluster that you can create the same one by following Dell GEOS GitHub, and then I expanded it with the Grafana. Basically, I added into the lab config the configuration where you specify what virtual machines you want to create. I added my certification authority, Grafana, InfluxDB, just the empty shells, basically empty machines, right? Empty Windows Server 2000, 2022. And I do have my physical environment where I do have my MDT installed, and it's also connected to the physical lab. What I'm doing here is I was able to deploy physical machines from here. So if I'll connect to my management machine here, I'll be able to connect to my physical cluster because this is the way I connected it, right? I did connect my DC, my virtual switch, to the physical ports, and these physical ports are connected to my top of the rack switches. So from this domain controller, I do have a DHCP. I assign IP addresses to my physical environment while still connected to the lab using this DC because it's connected one way to the internet, and other way it's connected to my physical lab. But you can have your complete virtual lab, right? The thing I will be showing is I have a physical machines I want to demo first as a result, and then I will show virtual machines, what you can do in your lab before you also deploy it to your physical production, if you want, right? If it makes sense, right?
At some point, it's for example, I have a few physical systems where I can try things, but I'm limited in hardware and budget. So people will learn about that in another series I'm preparing, but it's that's why sometimes I need to deploy virtually.
Right, and this is consistent deployment.
Yeah.
If you will hit some issue, right, you can send me the code where you hit the issue, and I will just deploy MSLab, and I will have the same domain controller as you, right? I will have the same setup as you if you send me just the lab config, which is a few kilobytes. This is what I wanted to do when I was delivering sessions or workshops where we had to, deploy environment. I needed to have an environment that will be always up to date, so I can just replace, lab config, or maybe just parent images or whatever. Maybe just have a lab config and then just deploy from the scratch with the latest ISO file the parent images, and then basically distribute it to all of the machines in the room. And then I would just instruct everyone, just, hey, this is the lab config, and here you just run deploy, and you will have your lab, and we will have the same scenario across the lab. And then I can send you lab config, and you'll get in the very same result as I will get in here. And I don't have to send you anything else, just a lab config, few kilobytes. And how it looks like on the disk, if I'll just go in here into my D drive, here are my labs. So there's this Azure Stack HCI and Grafana, and here's my MDT lab. So these are the prefixes. If I configure my lab config without a specific prefix, it will take this folder name. So I know my Grafana lab is living here. Here I have my virtual machines, and all of this is running in here. If I'll simply run cleanup, it will just delete the virtual machines from the Hyper-V manager and delete the virtual machines from here.
That's maybe where a good point where we need to we should introduce the general topic, not only talking about MSLab, but you took you built a new scenario around Grafana and how to deploy Grafana with HCI, which we will use to introduce MSLab plus the scenario you deployed, or one of the new scenarios you created.
Perfect. So what I do have is my physical machines. I do have my physical cluster. So if I'll open a failover cluster manager, you will see I do have actually 2 clusters. So let me just, okay, I can browse. You can see I have 2 clusters. This is my AX6515 cluster. And you'll see it has 2 nodes, some errors, I guess, and some virtual machines running. Okay, so there are some running, some VM base. You can recognize this is VM fleet. So we can even, spin VM fleet to see some graphs. What I was able to do is I was deploying the Grafana and with InfluxDB and Telegraph agents. And these Telegraph agents are installed on the Azure Stack HCI nodes. And these are sending data into my dashboard. So I can simply open one of the dashboards that you can download for free and see how your Azure Stack HCI is performing, right? So as you can see, my CPU is almost not used at all. 25 of 32 processors running, 17 virtual machines plus 16. Okay, in total it's 32. And then what is the CPU usage? What is the virtual switch throughput? As you can see, I did some reboot in here, so I didn't have a data. What is the RDMA network throughput? If there are any missed cluster heartbeats, and you can customize everything here, even what data you want to collect. And this is super nice because you can even have multiple clusters in here, and you can just basically filter data by the cluster. I do have only one, but you can have multiple clusters. You can basically see all of the virtual machines from all of the clusters from one simple dashboard. So this is the result that you will that we will walk through on how to deploy it today. And you can simulate it in the virtual machines because we will do it in the virtual machines. This is like a physical app, but I will go into the virtual machines and show you and demonstrate how you can do it there, step by step. And by the way, it's not a new scenario. It's basically a modified scenario that I did 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And it was working. So I was like, okay, maybe I should refresh it, right? And meanwhile, I'm still working on the dashboards because some of the dashboards were not, 100% configured. Some were, missing small things like RDMA traffic was not showing because there was a wrong name for the metrics. So I had to modify it a little bit. Or if you will go and hit an edit button here, you will see that some of the graphs are not using time series, are using some older form of the graph. So you can simply just modify it the way you want. Anyway, let's build this together, right? So if you will be following Dell GEOS GitHub, you will get into the state where you have 4-node Azure Stack HCI cluster with some domain controller and maybe management machine. You need to add these 3 machines, CA, Grafana, and InfluxDB. To add these, it's super simple. You will also learn it in Dell GEOS GitHub. There is basically working with MSLab, and this will teach you how to modify lab config to add virtual machines. What I will do is I'll go into the Grafana scenario that I pushed recently. So let me just switch to the dev because I was pushing some updates this morning. And there is one scenario called Azure Stack HCI and Grafana. As you can see, I was pushing some fixes 2 hours ago. I'll open it, and there is end-to-end description, what's happening inside the lab. So you can just, view what you can expect. And there's described like regions. Why I'm describing regions here? Because there's a script called scenario.ps1, and if I'll open it and copy everything from here and just go into my virtual machine and to my lab Grafana, and I will go and log in into my management machine, I can paste the scenario script. This is the scenario that you will be following. Basically running scripts or executing scripts. And it's not automation, it's documentation, so you can read it through and learn what you should do or what you are doing. So this is This is the thing that I downloaded. And as you can see, there are regions. And you can expand and collapse regions by pressing Ctrl+M. If I press Ctrl+M, I can expand, I can collapse the regions, and I can simply read through what's happening there. If you don't know what's happening in the code, if it's hard for you to read the code, you can go back to this scenario. What I did is that I tried to describe everything what is happening in each region. So if I'll go into, again, to Grafana here, I'm describing what is it, where I got all of these dashboards from, what is the result, how it will look like, what is the lab config. So this is the file that you have to modify, and what you have to add is these 3 lines to add your machines. So I did add one for the certification authority, one for the Grafana, and one for the InfluxDB. It's just Windows Server 2022 core with just 1 NIC. This has a little bit more memory. And this has special configuration in InfluxDB just to have one extra disk. So I just added 1 disk to it, just to have a data disk for the database. Right? And then I describe here anti-lab, what is there, what you will set up when you will be setting up the certification authority, and so on. So let's get into it. I will make this full screen. So now we are in the management machine from where I manage my Azure Stack HCI cluster that I deployed in the virtual machines. So I do have my 4-node cluster. As you can see, it's a virtual machine. It's, where is it? Manufacturer is Microsoft Corporation. It's a virtual machine. I do have 4-node cluster. And I do have some cluster shared volumes, 4 of them. Each is 1 terabyte, I think. Or yeah, 1 terabyte here. And I do have networks configured with Converge, with network ATC. This is converged intent. So 2 NICs per 2 NICs per virtual machine. And then the VLANs are configured. So I do have VLAN 711 and it's working. So you can even play with network ATC and all of this stuff. Okay, let's get into it. So what I usually do is I simply open a PowerShell window. As you can see, this was my PowerShell when I was deploying Azure Stack HCI cluster. So as you can see, I was creating volumes. So let me just clear screen it. And let me just run region by region. So first is variables. Let me just copy it. What I can do, I can just move this window to the left, adjust it slightly so you can see the code, and then just paste it into here. So these are my variables. You can adjust your variables to suit your production environment, but if you are testing, it's better to test it first in MSLab because all of these configurations or all of these variables will be working. This is adjusted to run with a default configuration. So as you can see, there are some variables. What is the Grafana server name? What is the InfluxDB name? And if I'll open my server manager, you will see all of these servers are already domain joined and are reachable. So you can see Windows Server Data Center. I can even add all of these servers, port management, and just double check if everything is okay. As you can see, all my servers are available. The online, perfect. Let's go back into the PowerShell. There's my cluster. You can even have more clusters if you want. And let's go. So let's download files to download folder. Again, right click. You can see what I'm doing. Like I'm transferring files from Influx Data, InfluxDB, Telegraph, Grafana. It's super simple. Just right click. Right? You can reuse the code, right? This is the best thing. You can reuse the same code to download your files if you decide to write your own scenario. As you can see, download it here. This one is interesting. You know what this name stands for?
Nope.
Non-sucking service manager. So you can spin your services in Windows Server. Easy way. Let's install some management tools. I'm assuming that you manage all of the stuff from the server with the GUI. So I'll install failover clustering management, PowerShell for Active Directory, PowerShell for certification services, right? So most of the time you will be just drinking coffee, which is the perfect thing for the IT admins. So you just paste the stuff, take a look what's happening, and you will explore in the GUI what's happening, right? Because I don't want you to PowerShell everything, right? I want you to try it in the PowerShell and then explore what really happened in the environment so you can learn. And then if you'll be enough, I would say, if you feel safe around all of the PowerShell and everything, you can start modifying variables and use it in your environment or your modified environment to try to set up it by yourself. The great thing about this is you can always compare well-working environment that you spin in the lab with your production. So you can see, okay, what's the difference? Because in production, it's not working. In the lab, it is working. So you can compare, I don't know, GPOs. You can compare versions, you can compare files, you can compare what services are running in production versus what is running in the MSLab, right? So you have known good and healthy state, and you can compare to it. So the next thing, what we will do, we will set up certification authorities. So, I mean, the way I did this is I was doing research on how to correctly install certification authority, right? I came across multiple blogs and I basically pulled together a lot of information. So more or less like, set up the prerequisites like install IIS, configure IIS correctly, create the CA policy file, basically say what should be the defaults for the certification authority, and then, configure the roles, configure the locations, configure on the web server, you need to configure of the validity CRL, IL locations, and all of this stuff. So it's like a step-by-step document, and I'm basically, I think I copied it from somewhere anyway. So just use it or modify it for your production. If you see that this is not the way it should be, please do pull request, because this is something that I really need to see work from the community, because sharing is caring.
Yeah, and I think you already had those situations where you got those pull requests. So it's just creating the pull request on your public GitHub repo, and you will then instantly get in contact with the
or just file issue, right? Or if I'll take a look and see, okay, that's a meaningful thing that we should fix, then let's take a look into that and fix it, right?
yeah.
And
As an overall, is there or if something comes up with, as I said, you can easily create your own scenario. Is it also something you would like to see if there's someone coming to you, as we have an active
definitely,
community on HCI, and I have that scenario. It's not on MSLab. Can I add my scenario to your MSLab?
anytime, yes. Anytime, yes. So if you feel that there's something missing, you would like to share something. I think I do have several like this. It's been a while, but I do have, I think, 2 or 3 scenarios from Andreas Sobchik. Oh, let me just, maybe I'm just misspelling the name. Yep, just go from start browsing, MSLab. Just type MSLab. The first link should be MSLab. Easy. In scenarios, I think I do have some SDN scenarios. I think, was it? This one is mine, I think, but there was more. I don't remember, but there's definitely some of them that been done. I think 2 or 3 that being created by someone else.
Okay.
And if you see on contributions, there are multiple people contributing, like my ex-colleague Vladimir Mach is contributing most, and is, for example, rewriting the logic in the MSLab, or was doing some automation to sign the scripts. So these scripts are signed by Microsoft also. Let's take a look on what's happening here. Okay, features were installed. Let's set up the certification authorities. So, copy paste as always. So let's set it up. We can observe it from Server Manager. So let me just put it here. Put this one here in the top right corner. Right. And we'll be configuring this server. It's not yet certification authority. We can open certificate authority, certification authority MMC console. Yeah, I know. It's trying to connect to the local certification authority. We still don't have the new one, but when we will have, we will just connect to the CA server here. It's our certification authority. So let's wait for it to be installed. So what I'm, for example, configuring in the CA, and that's why you want to use PowerShell, is that you don't want to populate all of the default templates, because when you will populate the default templates, some of them will be assigned automatically. So you want to be in control. So in the script, you'll be setting up the answer file for the certification authority with some default properties. And all of this is for create a certification authority or certificate for the Grafana. So when you will log in into the Grafana, you will not see any errors in the HTTPS, and also to secure LDAP communication with LDAP-S. So we will create a certificate for the domain controller, roll it into the domain controller, and then configure LDAP-S with Grafana, so you can authenticate with your domain credentials. Normally, I mean, this took me like, I think 2 nights to set it up, right? And then, a lot of time to fine tune it. It was like 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And now it took me only just 1 day to fix all of the stuff, right? Just, 1 day in total. So like 2 or 3 days because of the meetings, right? But this is why I want you to take a look on this scenario. It's not about the Grafana or InfluxDB. It's about what performance counters you want to collect, because now you can collect the data to your Azure monitor, and the default ones are just the basic ones. It's just a CPU, memory, virtual machine, something like that. It's like not that much. But you don't want to collect all of this into the Azure, right? Because you don't care about what is your performance like every 30 seconds when you are measuring with VM fleet. You care about what is your performance like every maybe 15 minutes to just spot some degradation of the performance over the time, right? Which is what Azure Monitor is perfect for. So this is like a use case for observing every tiny bit of your Azure Stack HCI cluster, because you can adjust it and you don't pay anything for the data. It's on your local network. You can just pin some virtual machines and basically destroy it the day later if you want to. So what's happening now? Yeah, we are configuring some certification authority, I guess. We do have already certification authority, so let's connect to it. We are now adding all of these MIME types into the IIS. Yeah, I mean, it's super easy, right? You can just paste the code. Okay, next stuff. We do have certification authority now. It's being loaded. Let's add some certification templates, right? Copy. Okay, we do. Let me just first show you that we don't have any certificate templates published yet, right? So after the pasting the code, you will see that some certification templates will be published, 2 of them. Okay, come on. Remember, this is virtual environment running.
And we are recording live.
And we are, this is live demos. And because of the PowerShell, I don't need to have demo codes, or do I? Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so
maybe a little one. So.
Yeah. So I don't have any published certificate templates. If I manage templates, the default ones are there, but I'm not using these because if you would go with these, it's like really old ones, like minimum supported 2000. I mean, come on, who is using these? Hopefully no one. So let's just push this code to add certificate templates. So this is basically in registry, right? So I think I pulled this from the registry. Oh no, it's in Active Directory, right? So if you explore Active Directory with HCI, you can see what's there. So you can adjust these parameters because I didn't come up with this. I'm not too smart. Basically, what I did is I created a certificate template by modifying stuff, and then I put it into this into these variables or actually attributes of the template. So let me just refresh here. We should see now two. One is web server with that is exportable, and one with domain controller with legacy provider. Let me just go and manage here. We should see it also here. And this is legacy. Okay, now it's 2016. All of this is configured the way you have in the template here. But if you want to modify it, you just modify it here, go into the Active Directory, copy the values, put it into the PowerShell, and recreate the key or certificate templates. Let's push these certificates into the domain controller and Grafana. Let's issue this. Let's run more PowerShell code. So there's like a hash table of certificates to enroll. So you can use the same code to enroll certificates into your whatever service you want. So I'm using, okay, I'm also installing PSPKI. I think this was just to create some temp files or something like that for the Grafana, because Grafana accepts certificates in specific format and you have to export it. So what I do, I auto enroll it into the computer object and then I export it and then I modify it. So I did configure auto enrollment policy into each machine. So the machine certificate will be auto enrolled. I should be able to see now that if I'll go into my certification authority, I should be able to see that I issued two certificates. As you can see, one was to the TC and one is to the Grafana. See, so it does the certificate templates and everything. And the next step I think I did was, I just enrolled the certificates, I guess. Yeah. This is just auto enrollment of the certificates. Let's configure LDAP-S. Normally, you would have to take a look, find a guide and everything. And here, you will just open the PowerShell script and you will see that I'm saying to the domain controller to use LDIFE tool, this one, and basically use it with a parameter to renew the certificate. Okay, whatever. Hopefully, it will work. Copy and paste. And this is where you can go back to the scenario in MSLab here. Where is it? Okay, it's probably here. Scenarios. There is Azure Stack HCI and Grafana. There's a region to configure LDAP-S. And I think, yeah, I'm describing here that you can validate with ldp.exe to validate if SSL is fine. So you can always learn something new, just even read by this code or just this documentation, because this is trying to describe what is happening. It might be too much for IT admins like us. I mean, because I'm not even a certification authority admin, right? So I had to do my research too, and it was pretty tough to swallow all of this, right? But now you can know how to validate, for example, if LDAP-S is working, because you can use the ldp.exe tool. Right. Not sure if p.exe. Well, it's here. Connection, connect. DC, let's try SSL and port 636. Okay. Can't open connection. That's weird. Well, not sure. Maybe I didn't logging. Yeah, whatever. Let's see if it will work. Because maybe this is normal. I don't know.
We talked about demo gods.
I don't remember because I think that was a different message when you run when the 636 is not configured. I think it's, but not sure. Not sure. But let's see. Should be working. Completed successfully here, so whatever. Let's do next thing. Let's copy NSSM, InfluxDB, and Grafana to servers. So this is more or less just about copying the files. So this is about copying installation file into the servers. Then we will just extract it, and that's it. See, so basically copying into the program files, right? So it's a zip file. It's like a package only. And we will extract it, copy it into the program files, and then, yeah, that's it. So the same for the Grafana. Just preparing files. Again, relatively boring because you can drink coffee.
Yeah.
You have these as a variable, so you can use your own servers. You can even use the same server. The Grafana and InfluxDB can be the same server in the end. So now it's copying, unzipping. He could, in theory, validate it, but I think Grafana and dollar file shares are not available because it's using default Windows firewall. So we can enable the rule if you want to take a look at where the folders are located now. That we can really see that Grafana was extracted. But I mean, let's open the PowerShell to. What I usually do, and I love to do it with the customers, to showcase how easy and how much more useful it is to use PowerShell to manage your service. Get that firewall rule.
Yeah, it's PowerShell is just the pain we need to walk through. At some
For the first
point.
time, right?
Yeah.
At some.
And you need to use it. So I learned it a few years ago, but within let's say my current role, I don't use it that much. And I'm
Yeah, you have
horrible
to use it.
in
Yeah.
remembering code. So I learn it every time
That's
I
why I
try to
do
run.
MSLab. That's why I do MSLab, right? Because I can always go back. I'm also not using that much PowerShell now, right? But I can always go back and to see, okay, I think I was doing it this way there, and I can just find it.
Yeah,
And
it's just
then
I wrote it somewhere. It's why I'm writing blogs, just to dump my memory in a written form which I can reread later on.
exactly, that's why I created MSLab, so it's public, so I can just search it from anywhere. If I'm at the customer, I don't have to copy my files somewhere, and I just can navigate
it's
customer
helping
into
others.
MSLab.
And it's
And it's helping others, exactly. And I really like it, right? So this code, what is it doing? It will basically find the firewall rules on the remote machine, put it into the output view. I will just search for SMB. So I need to have SMB in, file and printer sharing in on any profile. This is good. It's not enabled. I want to enable it. So I'll just select this one. And the next pipe will just enable it. So now if I'll go into the Grafana and then just C dollar share, it will be available. See? Super easy. You can repeat the same for InfluxDB or whatever service. You can basically do it for multiple servers at once. You can just type the name of the service here and it's done, right? And if you don't know the exact name of the firewall rule, just filter it out in here. File and printer sharing, good, done. Grafana, InfluxDB, yeah, program files. InfluxDB is here. See? And then an SSM, I think it's in the System32. Okay. But just to configure the services. You can delete it after if you don't like stuff in the System32. Anyway, so next thing, configure InfluxDB to exist in different folder. What this will do is it will format the disk because I do have an extra E drive. So what you need to do is to first provision it because it was not formatted. I just basically added the disk into the virtual machine. And then what I did is I configured configuration file. So I want to place all of my folders into the E drive, all my database of the InfluxDB, because InfluxDB database can be bigger. So I don't want to keep it on the C drive. Let's configure Grafana and InfluxDB as a services. Again, super simple, just right click. You can then walk it through. It's basically what I did. It's using nssm.exe basically to install service and then basically configure the service itself, I think. Yeah. So Grafana and nssm should be now working. Let's try it. Get process sim session. Okay, computer name Grafana, name Grafana. That's a process, and let's try service. Computer name, and here's the service, hopefully. This get service is using, it's not using PowerShell remoting, it's using the, it's using this ancient protocol that is by default disabled. Funny thing. Did you know that?
No.
It's like if you run restart computer, it can use either WSMan or it can use PowerShell remoting. Oh no, it's the same PowerShell remoting and WSMan. It can use the old protocol. I don't remember, but invoke command computer name Grafana script log get service. This is better. See, because the service Grafana is running. So you have now Grafana running, and the next thing what we will need to do is to secure communication with to InfluxDB with IPsec, because now if I would open connection to the InfluxDB, anyone can write to it, anyone on the network. What I will do now is I will secure the communication from my management machine to the InfluxDB with IPsec. Normally, people do not know about this feature at all, right? Which is sad because this feature is there since Windows Server 2008, I think.
Yes, one of those hidden champions.
Yeah. Let me just open the Windows firewall from the GUI. Right. What I did configure is a connection security rule. And this one is saying that there might be some IPsec communication if you talk from anywhere to anywhere. So this is basically saying that you can expect that then there can be some kind of IPsec going on. What I simply configured here is that from anywhere to anywhere, I want to use request inbound and outbound. Like it, not require, but request. Try it. If it's available, then use it, right? There is also require. It means that if you want to enforce encryption between two locations, you can. But in here, I'm just requesting it. With the default method, you can modify this method to use whatever crypto, I would say, protocols you want. But I didn't add any, right? So I'm using the default, and then I think it's just this on all user profiles, and that's it, any protocol. So that's just the default rule. So if I'm communicating to somewhere to anywhere, just try it, right? And if I'll then open the communication to somewhere, it will pop up here. And as you can see, there is now some communication going on using the IPsec. I mean, this is just the authentication. It's just validation. It's not even encryption, right? So I think, anyway, so some communication is already working on IPsec. However, I limited on the remote machine on the InfluxDB who can communicate to an InfluxDB machine. And there's a rule that if I would open a let me just open the firewall again. Let me just try to connect to the, I have to open MMC. Well, I'll remove snapping, and it's Windows firewall, isn't it? Windows firewall, and then we need to connect to the Grafana. And what I'll need to do is get that firewall rule from Grafana and enable it. And I need to add the rule to manage Windows firewall. So let me just type firewall. And let's just enable it. So now we should be able to connect to the remote firewall from here. Okay, let's remove it and then add it again. I'll remove snapping, remove, and add it again. Grafana, finish, okay. See, so now we can manage the Windows firewall like this, and we should have a new inbound rule that will be enforcing IPsec, I think. I think I have it somewhere. No, it wasn't Grafana, it was InfluxDB, right? Okay, InfluxDB. So let's do InfluxDB. Let's enable the firewall rule. To enable remote management of Windows firewall, and let's connect to InfluxDB computer. Finish. Okay. And as I said, the PowerShell is more or less like a documentation because I don't want you to click stuff, and it's so much easier just to paste PowerShell script than just to create an inbound rule on a IPsec with all of this stuff. I mean, it would be just too complex. So as you can see here, there's a rule that will allow this communication only if the connection is secure, and you can even modify it to just say, I want to have this connection to be encrypted. Because a free version of the InfluxDB doesn't support encryption. Now we did secure it. What we also say is that we want to allow only, I think I did configure it, but maybe not. Maybe I just encrypted it, but I think I did have a PowerShell somewhere. Maybe it will be the next step to just say only these computers are allowed to talk to the InfluxDB. I think I have it in there. Yeah, this is it. Other computer, the Influx rule. Okay, let's this one. This one is to add the computer to the rule. Let's double check it again. Here we have InfluxDB rule. Let's go in the properties again. I think it will be remote computers. Not yet. Okay, let's refresh. Refresh. Properties. Remote computers. And now we have it. See, only these computers, or only from these computers, you will be able to talk to the database. Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just, I said, I'm just watching your glory, and you overwhelmed me a bit personally.
I know, I understand, right? So that's why we are doing this video to be longer. So everyone will be able to go through these small things, to be able to understand all these small bits and pieces, right? Because you
Correct.
don't have to use it. This is not mandatory. This is only if you have an enterprise architecture and you want to secure your InfluxDB and you are, cheap to buy it.
Yep.
And let's also configure LDAP for the Grafana. It's straightforward. It's more or less like a text file that needs to be modified. So let's modify it. And then secure LDAP to use LDAP S. And then let's configure Grafana certificate. Again, copy paste. And then hopefully all of this will be done. Okay. There's a rule for yep.
And when I look into our recording with all the prep stuff we did, we are at 56 minutes now, and I think 10 minutes.
Okay, so we will
We,
finish in 10 minutes. No worries. It's almost done.
no, just for the audience. It's just with the scripts and everything you built in MSLab. It's just if you do that deployment, it maybe is 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and you have it up and running.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's really good because you can give it a try. And as you can see, the only thing you have to do is watch if there are any errors in the console, right? And usually there are not. I think we now configure. Yep.
And that's basically what you could do on a home office day while doing your laundry.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can have if you have boring meetings, you can just do MSLab, right?
Yeah.
You can listen to the stuff and just paste the code and just
Yep.
talk with the people. You don't have to think too much, right? So now I created a rule for the Grafana. So that was a rule to communicate from any computer to HTTPS to Grafana, right? So if I'll refresh here, there should be a new one called Grafana, I think. It's here. See, so there's even a small steps like how to create a firewall rule to allow, in this case, Grafana.exe. And now I should be able to navigate to Explorer here. Just type Grafana corp contoso com and some HTTPS. And I should be able to see login screen for Grafana. Easy, right?
Yep.
What is the next step? Yeah, I think we should be able to now authenticate using corp /flap admin as one setup exclamation mark. This is my super secret password. See? Now we have, okay, lab admin, ls1 setup, ls1 setup. Okay, looks like my LFS is not working after all.
So something.
This is good, right? Because you will get into the same state and we can troubleshoot together, right? If you will spin up the lab, you can tell me, hey, you did this wrong.
So we could use the comments or the Git repo to answer that.
Oh yeah, sure. You can just file an issue now. Hey, Jaromir, you failed to log in into the Grafana, so your LFS is probably not working, right?
So demo gods are not with us today.
Oh, okay. So I ran through this scenario only a couple of times, so maybe I missed something. I had it running. I'm not sure why it's now not running, but we can then check what the Grafana config is, because I know that I had an issue with root certification authority in Grafana, and I had to comment the line. I'm not sure if it made it into the GitHub. So maybe that's the reason. Maybe, right? But you can still use admin and then log in.
But that's
right.
something to troubleshoot with the together with the community. So just
yes,
we will link everything in the description, and you can help Jaromir find the missing piece in the code.
Yeah. So this was to configure LDAP for Grafana, and I think there was one thing that I commented, but I'm not sure if it's. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening, right? So configure LDAP authentication in Grafana. There's a typo. Yeah, this is rewriting the text configuration that is in, and there's a rewriting LDAP TOML. So as you can see, maybe I'm just troubleshooting if I did skip the certification authority. There's somewhere that I even commented it that you have to skip validation of the certification authority because of the bug or something. So yeah, but this is like, I would say, open to everyone, so you can walk through what I really did, and you can see that I was just rewriting the configuration file. Right, so maybe just something. Configure CA validation. Yeah, now I disable it, so skip SSL is verified through. So okay, oh no, maybe just LDAP is not working. Anyway, so next step is to push Telegraph agents to collect the data from the nodes. I will be using Telegraph agent, so you need to push it to the nodes. Configure what is a database where you will push your data into, and then also you need to configure what the data you want to collect. So what I'm doing here is I'm grabbing this from the scenarios. There's a Telegraph conf configuration file and Telegraph PS1 file, PowerShell that will grab some information from the health service and present it into the Influx database. So let's push these agents to the nodes. Just go copy paste. It's in variables. You have all of the variables for what is your cluster, what are your nodes, where to push it. And basically what we can do is we can go into each of the nodes, which is AXSCI node 1. Is it? I don't even remember what is my node name. AZSHCI. Okay. AZSHCI 1 $C. And then I should see my Telegraph somewhere, maybe. To see program files, Telegraph 30. Okay, it will be here soon, I guess. Now it's copying files. Okay. I was doing it for number 2, so let's check number 2. Okay, now it's copying it here. Good. There's a Telegraph agent, Telegraph configuration. Oh, yeah, I interrupted for some reason. Hopefully it copied everything. Let's check from the number 2. Yeah, it should be bigger, so let's rewrite it. So don't watch your clusters, I guess. Because I for some reason I was not able to finish copying because it was used by someone else. So probably because I opened the folder, something happened. I don't know. Anyway, this is your configuration file, and the configuration file is saying what counters you want to collect. So if you scroll down a bit, you'll see that there are just Windows performance counters somewhere. Yeah, let me just scroll down. Or not. Yeah, because I didn't rewrite it yet. Okay, let me just wait a bit because it needs to rewrite the default configuration and replace it with the configuration from the MSLab, because there's a demo file, or let's say the default file that you can adjust or use. So this is defining what performance counters you want to collect. So this is InfluxDB version 1. Now there's an InfluxDB version 3. You can go with 2 or 3, and these work slightly different. For the sake of my sanity, I would say, I didn't go with Telegraph version 2 or 3 because it was, it would be too much to change. All of the performance counters are now being configured via that or via REST APIs, because that's what the Telegraph now supports. But with version 1, you have this configuration file. Right. What's the problem here? Copy item. Okay, well, I guess it's the same. So there's this PowerShell script, and there's my configuration file. I guess it will be smaller with less stuff to mess up. And as you can see, here are the performance counters. So there's an input object performance counter for the network interface. It's collecting all instances and all of the packets received, errors and everything with bytes per second and all of this stuff. You can modify the rate of the collection. I think in the top there's an interval every 10 seconds. You can modify the way you want. But here are all of the performance counters. You can get inspired from here and collect whatever you want. So now the data should be pushed into the InfluxDB. So the last step what we can do is download InfluxDB and just take a look into the database if there is something. If this is working, we should see data in the database. So yeah, we should have a studio now. And we should be able to connect now to the InfluxDB. And then database should be called Telegraph. Let's save it or test it first, maybe. Connection successful. Save it, connect to it, and let's see if we'll have any data. As you can see, we do have some data. Okay, in the caching, we will not have anything. We should have something in maybe Hyper-V switch. Okay, let's query something. As you can see, we do have some data now. Perfect. Data is being collected now. So all of this is being collected. So you can explore manually the database for the values. This is not end. The next step, the last step, is to log into Grafana and import some dashboards.
Okay,
So
then I think we will use our last 10 to 15 minutes to show how that's done. We have something prepared.
Yes, let's take a look. Dashboards here. Oh, first we need to set up the data store or data source. So it's here. Let's set up the data source and let's add the InfluxDB. And our InfluxDB is HTTP influx DB and port is 8086. And I guess that's it. The name of the database is Telegraph. And save and test. Working. Cool. And now let's go into the home. Let's go into dashboards. And then I think we should import some dashboard. Probably not. Let's create a new one by importing it. Okay, that's better. And now we can paste here a JSON file. If I'll go back into the MSLab, there are scenarios, and there is Azure Stack HCI and Grafana here. And there are dashboards here. So I can go into the Hyper-V metrics maybe, and simply click on raw, copy all of it from here and put it here, load it. No. This was not right. Copy and now paste. That's better. Import. Cool. See, I do have a data.
And that's all with MSLab in, let's say, 40 minutes.
Yes, and we were talking a lot, right?
Yeah, of course. And if you can concentrate, or if you're doing it in a meeting, so you could use a 1-hour meeting to just deploy that stuff.
Yes,
and learn from
that's
it.
for sure.
And talk to
Yes.
Jaromir why the authentication didn't work.
Yeah. And also, for example, you will find out that there's no data. So for the RDMA, it makes sense, right? But missed because the heartbeats, it should be there. So might be that there are uppercase, downpercase issues. So I need to, for example, modify this template to include the correct name. See, and maybe as you're using this graph as well, so you want to go with a time series and just save and apply whatever, and then just do a pull request. Now I see the data.
Yeah, and it's, to be honest, more information like you would get from Arc right now. So it could close, especially the Grafana scenario, could close the monitoring gap we have right now with the regular Azure monitoring tools. Like there is no reporting on heartbeat.
I mean, you can set up, right? If
You
you
can set
go
up,
into the,
but not out of the box. You would need to configure it yourself.
you need to create collection rules, and then you need to create a dashboard. Right.
Correct.
So this is a community dashboard for the Hyper-V itself. I do not have any virtual machines here, so I do not have any data. But we can go back into my physical environment where I do have my LDAP authentication working. So this is my real world dashboard. And as you can see, I have more like a network throughput on RDMA. And I think I can go back in time last 2 days, maybe more, last 30 days. And it's relatively fast, but I mean, this is running all of the virtual machine. So you can see that I was doing some spikes here on the RDMA network throughput because I was testing with VM Fleet. What it can do, I can still spin the VM Fleet and see how the dashboard will look like if you want. What do you think? Do you want the VM Fleet?
Yeah, I think that's maybe something we could put in another video. We already showed a lot. We showed that it works, and I think we shouldn't overwhelm the audience right now. So if you're interested to see more of the stuff working, if you should do a short wrap up, or also can do it on a live stream at some point. I'm using StreamYard now. So we could set up a session, if just use the comments, use LinkedIn, and just ask us to do, and we will get that working. Or maybe you want to ask me anything with Jaromir on MSLab or Dell or whatsoever. Just leave us comments so we can make it available. But amazing stuff, and my whole team, everyone I talked to, they all like MSLab and what you're doing here.
Perfect.
And as we showed in our example, it's easy. It's a boring meeting setup. You can learn from it. It's community work. So if you find something, if you're interested into building your own or participating in MSLab or in that community project, just drop an email, drop a comment. I will also put your contacts so that you can be contacted via LinkedIn. So yeah, I think we reached our goal today.
Perfect.
Then thank you so much, Jaromir, for being with me and showing us more of your and hopefully we can show more of your glory in the future.
Anytime. Just let me know what you want to see and let's take a look there.
I'm still thinking of Dell Apex, but I know that's not the topic you want to talk about, so I will maybe ask
I
Kenny.
want. I want.
Oh,
Um,
then if
we
someone
can take a
says,
look. Let's wait for the Ignite, right? For some announcements. Then we can talk about what's going on,
yeah,
what and how to play with it with MSLab, because I do have some, I would say, goodies and how supplemental package works. And this is how Apex Cloud Platform works. It's using supplemental package, right? So basically, the internals are now already published with Dell GEOS GitHub,
yeah,
but there will be some announcements at Ignite, and I would love to cover all of these announcements with MSLab. So stay tuned because hopefully we will have really, really nice lab on how to, practice everything you will hear at Ignite.
then I think we have something the community can consume via sitting beneath the Christmas tree, something like that. Let's plan it maybe for December, January, so that we can
Let's
talk
do
about
that.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Then, Jaromir, thank you so much, and for everyone, thank you for watching. Subscribe our channel, leave us comments, leave us ideas what we should cover. Lots of my last videos were requested by the community. So yeah, Jaromir, any last famous words?
Just use the scripts, right? It's there. And it's not automation, it's just documentation. So
Yeah,
just read it through and learn.
perfect. Then thank you so much and see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.